Rugby. Another week of the World Cup done. Another week of dodging copyright strikes. Any games worth talking about? Italy versus Uruguay. How nice to have a Wednesday night dinner time rugby match. Even nicer that Uruguay and Italy put on a good show. Los Teros came out angry and led 17 points to 7 at 43 minutes. But Italy woke up, and through powerful carries from Cannone, Lamaro and Negri, the Italians clawed their way back to a great 38 points to 17 win. France versus Namibia. France put out their full-blown monster squad against Namibia on Thursday for some reason and duly battered the Africans by 96 points to 0. Who gives a shit though? Dupont got injured and is now in a race against time to get fit for the quarterfinals. A French World Cup without the Martian is no World Cup at all. Argentina versus Samoa. King Boff has returned. In Argentina's must-win game against Samoa, the actual 2022 World Player of the Year took control of the game with his boot and with his great poise in the backfield. Samoa put up a good fight in the wet, but their poor discipline helped Los Pumas put their campaign back on track with a handy 19-10 victory. Georgia versus Portugal. Can I call the games to watch or what? This was one of the best games of the tournament so far. Georgia dominated the game early, going up 13 points to 0 by 30 minutes. But Os Lobos fought back and they were leading 18 points to 13 near the end of the game. A late try by Georgia and an agonizing missed penalty after the hooter from Portugal meant one of the most entertaining games of the World Cup so far ended in a draw. What about extra time, guys, or a penalty shootout? That would have been good. England versus Chile. Chile was always going to struggle against England. If there's anything to be said about the English game plan, it's that it's very effective against teams that are not accurate. And so it was as England ran in 71 points to 0 against their much less experienced opponents. Springboks versus Ireland. My team lost, which sucks the big one. But Ireland won, and congratulations to them for continuing their world dominance. They have been the best for a real long time now. And also kinda thank you to rugby for existing. When it is played at this level, and I am biased, I know, no other sport comes close. I would love to go deeper on where this game was won and lost, but there's so many other games to cover. Suffice to say that it was very close, and if this game was replayed soon, maybe even on October the 28th, the result very much could go the other way. This time though, the spoils went to the excellent Irish in a wonderful 13-8 final score. Bandi Aki and Damien de Allender's clash was the highlight for me. Scotland versus Tonga. Last week I complained that we were 3 weeks into the tournament and still had no tries from Duan, Darcy or Kyle. It took up until the 82nd minute, but all that has now been redressed and the rugby force is back in balance. 45-17 was the final score as Tonga's terrible discipline let them down in a crunch Pool B game. Wales versus Australia. What a fun sight it was to see the basket case Welsh batter the even more basket case Aussies on Sunday night. That was up until about the 65th minute, and then I saw Eddie with his hands on his mouth. The fun kind of stopped there for me. I didn't see just Eddie anymore. I saw the players and the staff and the coaches and all their families and the fans. I felt bad for them. They look really sad. Maybe they're even crying in bed at night. That's not a fun thought. Wales have built themselves back up to some level of competency thanks to some very experienced coaches and players, and they won by a massive 40 points to 6. Australia have a lot of work to do to get their house back in order, whether with Eddie or not. Personally, I hope that they can raise their standards back up to where they belong soon. If only for the selfish reason that I want the Rugby Championship to be competitive. For the time being, I'll only kick dirt in their faces when they play the Springboks. All the other times, I'll just hope that they don't look so sad. And with that downer, we are into week 4 of the World Cup. Here are some quick fire predictions for this week's games, because I had no internet yesterday and could not write proper jokes for every single game. So fucking sue me. Angry Uruguay should beat apologetic Namibia. Still alive Samoa might beat still alive Japan. Tough one to call that. New Zealand will beat Italy easily. The ABs are still good, guys. Argentina will win against their neighbors Chile. Fiji must beat Georgia so that the hype train can keep going. I wanted to keep going. Scotland's back three will pad their numbers against poor Romania. We might see the last of Australia in this tournament against Portugal. And finally, Pollard will have lots of practice kicking conversions against Tonga. Samoa versus Japan and Fiji versus Georgia seem to be the pick of the games this week. Ooh, the news. Ooh. Antoine Dupont is a cyborg now. Mr. GQ was the victim of a high shot in their game against Namibia and had to leave the field with what was later confirmed to be a facial fracture. In the national panic of losing their team captain and the literal best player in the world, no doctor in France asked whether it would be ethical to enhance Dupont to even higher levels above the rest of us humans. They just went ahead and put metal in him. And now here we are in a world where Dupont is part machine and most likely cursing his weak human flesh into recovering in time for the quarterfinals. There's a game with South Africa to attend. Fair to say the Boks are cooked. The only other news that seems to come out these days is whatever ex-player has said about Eddie Jones, or what Matt Williams thinks about the morality of bench replacements. What the fuck? So I think let's just end this week's episode there. I will see you all next week after Libbok gets picked to start and kicks 6 out of 6 before Pollard replaces him. Libbok!